Thank you for joining us on Issues of the Moment, a current affairs program of Living Television Film Academy, APA. And today we are going to discuss the issue of bullying in Nigerian schools. Though bullying is not a subject, it has almost become part of the academic calendar, especially in Nigerian secondary schools. A few days ago, Nigerians were shocked following the death of Sylvester Oromoni, a 12-year-old student of Darwin College, Ikeja, Lagos. The death of Sylvester, an alleged victim of bullying, has sparked public outcry that the majority of Nigerians are calling for full investigation of the unfortunate and sad incident. That's the background information concerning the topic we are going to discuss today. My name is Chimezie Ozemso. Once again, welcome to the program. And on today's edition, I have two academic doctors who are going to do justice to this very important subject. Sitting on my far left is Dr. Eugene Warhan. Dr. Warhan is a public affairs analyst. Dr. Warhan, welcome to Issues of the Moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Presenter. Welcome, viewers.
I also have in the studio Dr. Stanley Ndwago. Dr. Ndwago is an author, a teacher, and also a broadcast journalist. Dr. Ndwago, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Presenter, and distinguished viewers out there. Welcome to the show.
Dr. Warhan, let me start with you. Why has bullying become a permanent feature of secondary schools, particularly elite schools in Nigeria?
Thank you. It has become a feature, like you have said, because of the problems that it has created in the school system, both among the teachers, the students, and the parents. So the school administration, the government, everybody is now worried because of the effects of bullying among the students, especially the secondary schools. Although the primary schools are not entirely left out, even the tertiary institutions. But for some days now, the focus in Nigeria has been on secondary schools and bullying, which, like you rightly pointed out, has resulted in the death of one of the students, Sylvester. That incident is clearly linked to bullying. So we can now say that this has become a real social menace in the schools.
Okay, Dr. Ndwago, as a teacher, do you entirely agree with him that bullying has been there right from the outset?
Well, what has just happened to Sylvester Oromoni is just something that is linked to a recurring issue. Bullying has been there in the secondary school as a result of what I would call superiority complex syndrome. When we were in the secondary school, we saw a little bit of bullying where senior secondary school students will want to, in order to show that really we are your seniors, they will bully the junior ones. So it has been there, just that little or no attention was paid to it until this issue of Sylvester came up. And this issue of bullying goes beyond even secondary schools. You and I know that a few days ago, students of one secondary school in Edo State had to chase their principal out of school. The man ran for his dear life. It was the grace of God that he wasn't killed by the children. They came back and they burnt his office. That's a special form of bullying. Therefore, I will support Dr. Warhan that bullying has been there in our secondary schools, but little or no attention was paid until this particular issue of going school, where a student, Sylvester Oromoni, was allegedly killed by, he didn't die in their hands anyway, but he died as a result of bullying from his secondary school, I think senior secondary schoolmates.
Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful explanation. Now, Dr. Warhan, you heard him very well.
Yes.
Now, can it be said, why do we have so many unreported cases of bullying, especially in secondary schools in Nigeria? Is it the fault of the media?
Yes, and partly the fault of the parents too.
Now, what about the schools?
And that's what I'm saying. With the advent of private schools, there's a lot of competition among these schools, and these schools seem to hide what is happening in their schools so as not to lose. Because every school tend to manage their affairs within themselves. I think what caused this very one now is that this boy died along the line. If the boy didn't die, maybe the Darwin school and the similar incidents could have been managed. But like Dr. Stan said, I think what has brought this issue now to the limelight is that bullying has been there. It appears now that it is being combined with drug abuse and courtism. So a combination of bullying, drug abuse, and courtism has rendered most of the schools unfit for academic studies.
Okay, Dr. Drago, it does appear that schools in Nigeria, particularly secondary schools, are more interested in having 100% success in external examinations, and yet considering the various forms of bullying going on in such schools.
You see, private school ownership is business. And the essence of a business venture is to make profit. And how can you make more profit? Tell the world that your school is the best. How would you prove that your school is the best? Having the best of the results. This time, WAEC results were released about 3 or 2 weeks ago. And if you look at some newspapers, you will see we have 100% elite schools, those who can afford to be on the newspaper, in the newspaper and television. Now, coming to the question you asked, who is to blame? There are thousands of unreported cases of bullying happening every day in schools in Nigeria. Whether elite schools, as we have in Bowen, or whether mushroom private schools, or whether village or community-owned secondary schools, these things have been there. I taught in one of the largest secondary schools here in Aba. I wouldn't want to mention. Unfortunately, female school that had over 700 children. Every day, you would see students having little bruises on their body. If you ask them, the seniors flogged me last night in the dormitory. And I will personally find myself guilty of not taking action then, because we saw this as part of what happens in the school. You say, after all, when we were in the secondary schools, our seniors were also flogging us. So we took this thing as part of the culture of a school,
of the academic
environment, not considering the attendant consequences. Like Dr. Wong has said, if Sylvester hadn't died, this would have come and gone as one of those events that happen in schools. So the issue is that Nigerian society has seen bullying in school as not a crime, rather, but as part of culture of the school environment, until gradually this kept growing and growing and growing to the extent of somebody dying as a result of that. So there are thousands of unreported cases, be it in private school, be it in government school, be it in mission schools. All these things happen there. So the school administration is to blame. Like I said, I take some blames for not taking actions in my own time when these things happen. And this is also so in different other schools. Therefore, teachers and the managers of the schools are to blame for not coming all out there to fight this particular thing. So the society, the teachers, the government, the police, the parents, all of us are to blame.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Dr. Wohan, is it part of the sorry state of affairs in our secondary schools that now we have an army of teachers who are not interested in the welfare of students under their care?
Yes, partly that, because even the employers of the teachers don't seem to be interested in the welfare of the teachers themselves. So invariably, the teachers transfer this aggression to the students. Generally, both in public schools and in private schools, the tendency is that the teachers are not taken care of. You understand what I mean? There are evidences are bound where teachers are not paid, where teachers in private schools are paid very meager sums that I will even feel ashamed to mention it on air here. What teachers earn in private schools, even here in Aba. So in that kind of scenario environment, the teachers themselves don't take their work seriously any longer. So they allow the children to manage themselves, so to say. And this has resulted into much examination malpractice because all these things are connected, they are interrelated. Cultism, drug abuse, examination malpractice, bullying, they are all interrelated. And you discover that in most schools, what is happening these days, like the doc said, is that everybody just wants a result, WAEC result, NECO result, external results for a show, while actually the school doesn't go through the students. So many of them, just like what has happened with our COVID-19 certificates, the same thing is going to happen to our certificates. That when you bring a WAEC certificate, A's and B's are there, at the end, people will not accept them and recognize them. So coming to the issue of bullying, like you said, the problem has been mainly with, like I used to say, most problems in the school system can be handled by the teachers, both bullying, cultism, and so on. The issue is for you to motivate these teachers to be at their duty post. So teachers should take the blame for what is happening. It is only the parents, especially for day schools, where you say that the parents themselves should also have an eye on their children and what they are doing. So for me, I think we should focus on the teachers to rescue the school system, which for me is going down the drain. Something needs to be done. Government has to do something. Owners of these schools have to do something. But they should start with the teachers. Because if you can bring back the teachers to their good position, I think they will take care of these things.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Ndrago, I completely agree with you. We would not have been discussing this very issue if not for the death of Sylvester Oromoni. Now, based on that, you are a teacher. Can it be said that teachers are not aware that we have cult groups in their schools?
Well, let me blame teachers. Let me also defend teachers. I am one. I've taken the blames at the inception of this program today. Now, talking about blaming the teachers. Teachers seem to have abdicated their functions to the students, senior students. A situation whereby you appoint prefects, give them cans, sit down in your office, or sometimes you don't even come to the school. You allow a student to control his fellow students. What do you expect these prefects to do, you who are given powers? They will go out there, and the only way they know they can call their fellow children to order is by punishing them or flogging them arbitrarily. And that is one form of bullying. Therefore, teachers have abdicated their functions, but not principally because they do not want to function, but because of the poor working environment. A situation where a teacher is owed 17 months, he is immotivated. He cannot put in his best. And let them do whatever thing they want to do there. I am hungry, I have not eaten, my landlord is worrying me, my children cannot go to school, I can't even take care of my child in the university. That particular child will transfer that aggression to other children, yes, by way of neglecting the functions he should perform. That is one factor. So teachers abdicated their functions to the children, not because they want to do that, but because they find themselves in a poor working environment. Apart from that also, are the teachers themselves safe in the hands of the children? This is where the society comes in. I've made an instance today where students chased away their principal. The man ran, perhaps jumped through the fence by the grace of God, and that is why he's alive today. And then when they couldn't get the teacher, they transferred the anger, that is school principal we're talking about, the anger was transferred to the principal's office where it was burnt. Now the children had the effrontery of tearing the policeman's clothes and making him naked. So do you think that teachers themselves could be safe in the hands of such caliber of children? The answer is no. So while we blame the teacher, we have to blame the society as well. Because if the teacher is not safe or knows that, look, if I press further to call these children to order, I may die in the process, the teacher wouldn't do that. So that is the problem. Here now, society has a lot of blames. Parents have blames. All of government has blames. Even security agencies have that. So therefore, I want to suggest, or I want to believe that while we blame the teachers, we also blame the society at large.
Okay, Dr. Waha, when we talk about cultism, what really comes to mind is tertiary institutions, because it is seen as an adult environment. Don't you think that we have failed as a nation when cultism is now in secondary schools?
Yes, that is why I said that both bullying, cultism, and examination, they are all related. And like you said, we have been looking at cultism as something that is in the tertiary, university, and the higher institution. But recent expositions now has told us that cultism even starts from primary schools.
In primary schools?
Yes, this is where these children start to grow and mature. So by secondary school, even the case in point, if you trace deep into that Sylvester issue, you see that there was some element of cultism in that very school. So right now, the teachers have additional work in their hands, especially the school administrators. Like Dr. Stan said, most of these private schools are being taken up to become real full-time business. There was an instance where the school principal suspended a student, and the owner of the school came in and suspended the school principal.
Okay, Dr. Waha, before you go ahead,
Yes.
At this point we are going to take a break, and when we come back, issues of the moment will continue. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program. This is Issues of the Moment. And on today's edition of the program, we are discussing bullying in Nigerian secondary schools. Now, Dr. Walker, before we went on that short break, we were talking about cultism in secondary school, and you gave a sorry account that we now have it in our primary school. So can you continue from where you stopped?
Yes, I was saying that these things start when these children are still very young, and before they mature into secondary school to university, they are now full cultists. So the point I was making is that we need to move education away from just a business, purely for profit making. Let us try to start seeing education as a building tool for us to build individuals who will contribute to the building of the society. The point we have at hand, that of bullying, like we said, is all over the place. Come to Abia State, come to the schools around, you will notice that, like Dr. Starr said, that the teachers have abandoned their duties, prefects are in charge, the senior students are everywhere, harassing and intimidating the students, the junior ones. And there's no way you can run a school of only senior schools. It has to be a mixture of junior and senior, boys and girls. So what we have to do is that we have to get back to discipline. Let there be discipline in the schools. Let there be discipline in the society. Let there be discipline in the family. Because some of these issues arise from poor parental care, even for the senior students. And the junior ones, when they start to complain, like one of the reports we had, Sylvester started complaining at a point, but the parents overlooked it until the calamity came. So I am of the opinion that Nigeria as a country, banditry, kidnapping, all sorts of vices that are trying to engulf the hopeless. We have to go back to the basics. There's nothing bad in building up disciplined children. The parents themselves have to be disciplined so that we can't continue to become a laughing stock to the international community, even with what we are presenting. So for me, the school is one of the key institutions in human life where children are brought up, socialization takes place. So if we don't get the schools right, I don't think we can get any other thing right. So we have to go back to our discipline, which we are very familiar with. The teachers will have to come back to their jobs. And the working environment doc said, we have to look at the way we treat our teachers. Because the condition of the nest is the condition of the bed. The condition of the teacher is the condition of the students. So if we abandon our students, teachers completely, the school system is abandoned, there is no way we can rescue this society.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Dr. Ndiago, as a teacher, you have been keenly watching events regarding the death of Sylvester Oromoni. Are there issues you feel that were not properly handled by the school authorities?
It is a pity. Let me start by saying that it's a pity that secondary schools have become breeding grounds for cultists in Nigeria, but that would be an issue for another day. Coming to your question, whether there were things that were not properly handled. There are too many things were not properly handled in the death of Sylvester. One, were there no housemasters in that school? Couldn't Sylvester have raised the alarm when he was being beaten? Or he raised and nobody listened to him? What immediate actions did the teachers take immediately, other than calling the parents and saying Sylvester fell down when they were playing a football match? Now, the medical doctor that was brought to treat Sylvester, does he have the prerequisite experience to have treated him, not to have discovered that something very serious had happened to him beyond what he was told? Because when the parents said they came, they saw the mouth swollen, which implied that he must have swallowed something or forced to swallow something. Didn't the doctor discover it in the first instance? Now, let's leave the school authorities aside. Talking about parents, while I do not intend to compound their grief, but the questions are, when the parents got to the school and saw the little boy in that condition, what did they do? Why did they have driven him straight from Lagos to Warri? You can imagine the distance they would have covered, driving him from Lagos to Warri. Were there no hospitals in Lagos where the boy should have been taken to? We have Lut and some other specialist hospitals there for medical attention. Now, don't you think that perhaps this guy's life would have been saved had the parents taken him to a hospital in Lagos,
yes,
instead of driving him all the way to Warri? From what we read, they say the church they attend does not allow them to take their children to hospitals without the bishop's instruction. That their bishop is called the bishop of the whole world. That if you are a member of the church and you take your child to a hospital without bringing the child, or even you, the person, without coming to the church for the bishop of the whole world to lay hands on you, you will be punished. And that even at that, even if the sickness requires a medical doctor, it is the bishop of the whole world that will refer you to their doctor to treat you. That is what we have read. Perhaps that was the reason they took the child straight from Lagos to Warri. So I want to blame both the school authorities and the parents. I believe that perhaps they would have saved this boy's life, because what causes death, to me, I'm not a medical doctor, may not be the physical injury, but they say the liver or the lungs, I don't know, had been swollen.
yes.
And within this period of 6 to 7 hours, it took them to drive him from Warri to Lagos. That would have been enough time to save the guy's life. So too many things were not properly handled in the case of Sylvester that led to the death of this young, sweet-looking young man.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Wong, we have said several on this radio program that parents no longer spend quality time with their children as a result of the harsh economic environment we find ourselves in. Don't you think that this incident, this death would have been averted if the parents of Sylvester paid adequate attention to him? Because the boy said, I want you to change my school, and nobody listened to him.
Yes, yes. At that point, that of Sylvester, we can blame the parents, because they didn't see the red flag as being waved by the boy. And you know, once you are very close to your child, I'm a parent, you need to see red flags when they start coming. So you have to blame. But even at that, the moment you put your child into a boarding school, you are transferring what we call in law the local parentis to that school now. They are now the parents of the child. So ultimately, I think school authorities to whom these children have been given a day school from 8 to, you know, most schools now, children stay up to 4, 5, 6, even in private schools.
Yes.
So some of the responsibility of the parents have been moved to the teachers and the school administration. For me, every school has to sit up, because if there were no cult boys in Darwin College, there was no bullying, I don't think there was any need for the parents to start getting to their bishop and so on and so forth. The problem is in the school. That is why, plus or minus, I am still of the opinion that there should be school reforms. Even legal instruments has to be brought in to support the school administration, to support the teachers. Because there are instances where children beat up their teachers. The instances like the one Doc cited, where students had to chase their school principal. It's a sacrilege. It's a big sacrilege for students to chase their school principal. During our own time in the 70s when we were secondary school, the principal is a god. It's a type of god. So,
a demigod.
A demigod. So you come think in our own time. You can't think of pointing a finger at the school principal or the teachers
behind him.
Or behind him. So I think the problem is indiscipline. Indiscipline has been elevated into something else, We praise people who have money. We don't know the way they made their money. Everybody is on the fast lane. So people will like to write WAEC from SS2. Parents give money. Nobody wants to read SS3 again. These are manifestations of indiscipline. So for me, the schools have to brace up the challenge. Let the school authorities be brave enough to expel a child who refused to be disciplined. And let the other schools not admit a child without a transfer certificate showing the class the child has attained, reason for leaving the school, and so on and so forth. Most children change school in SS1, go to another school and move into SS3.
Yes.
Some don't even do SS1 because they are big enough physical size. They just walk into a new class and people collect school fees and erode them to write one. All these things keep on going until we have what we have today. Even the problem of banditry, it started small. And people were clapping for kidnappers, clapping for bandits, until they became a monster. So I'm looking at the secondary school and cultism and bullying. Government should now step in. Schools should have functional PTA. PTA is not just on paper. Where parents come on monthly basis, on weekly basis, as the case may be, to address the observations about their children in the school, and for the school themselves to respond to some of it. If this have been done in the Darwin College, this type of ugly incidents couldn't have taken place.
Mr. President, the question, sir, is how did these children learn this? How did they imbibe the spirit of cultism and bullying? They brought it from society into the schools. A situation where a child seeing such things on television being practiced, he wants to go and practice it somewhere else. A situation where a child uses the phone and watches such violent things, they want to practice it in the school. A situation where a child sees a cultist out there operating uninterrupted, unpunished,
even occupying
position. He takes it. Let me tell you a story. When we are in the secondary school, our principal asked us what each of us will want to become in life. This other person said, I want to be a medical doctor. We clapped. This other person said, I want to be a lawyer. This person said, I want to be. And one said, sir, I want to be a 419. And the principal, the teacher then, was so embarrassed. I said, why? He now began to give instances of the 419, a man in his village who was moving in a very long convoy, riding the best of the cars, having the best of the buildings, being worshipped by the society, including the church. And then, having seen this, the child felt that, look, this is the right way to go. I want to be a 419 person because he saw the society. So it is a failure of the society, not just the parents. Some parents have failed, some are still doing their best, but the society at large is to blame because these things happen in the broader society and the children take that to school to practice it. For instance, Dr. Woha mentioned what I said earlier, where teachers, like it is a sacrilege, hearing that students chased away their principal. Look, how dare you during our own time to see your principal and remain where you are? You run into the bush. If you see the man coming, you freeze where you are. Because the fear of the principal is the beginning of wisdom. But here today we hear that students have the effrontery to chase the principal away and then burn his office. So it is a failure of the society. While we blame the teachers, while we blame the school authorities, the society at large should receive a greater chunk of the blame.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Ndako, still on you. Don't you think that the parents of Sylvester would have investigated why Sylvester is saying that, look, I want you to change my school?
Well,
don't you think that they would have probed further to find out why this young lad doesn't want to remain in that very school?
They didn't see reasons with Sylvester owing to the fact that their first child went through that school, did very well in that school, and even today doing very well overseas. Sylvester's elder sister is in SS2 in that particular school. and there was no complaint. So they will feel that, Sylvester Oromoni Jr., well, he's afraid of going to school. That is why he doesn't want to go. Baby, go to school. So they didn't see the red flag. Maybe because their other children didn't complain. Their other children, the first child had gone through that particular school, did very well. The second one is still there. None of them brought a complaint. Therefore, Sylvester would have been afraid of going to school. Remember, this boy is just 12 years.
Yes.
So they felt that, oh, this is the talk of a child. They didn't see that. That is why this is a wake-up call to all parents. That when a child says, I don't want to go to that school again, I don't want to go to school today, I don't like that auntie, don't shut the child up. Try to find out what the problem is. There could be some substance in what that particular child said. So Sylvester's parents didn't see that, maybe because of the reasons I gave.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Wahan, do you think that there is something the National Assembly and the State Houses of Assembly can do?
Yes, for instance, the Lagos State House of Assembly has come up with a law, and is passed and signed by the governor to deal with courtesim and bullying in schools. So there are various punishments that have been profiled for those who contravene the very law. It's a step in the right direction, and more especially, like when we blame different institutions, I think the reason for establishing a school is to correct the ills of the society. So we cannot continue to push blames around, or somebody must take responsibility. Even when something is going wrong, that is why we are talking about the parents, we are talking about the school administration, as in the case with Sylvester. So for me, we have to bring our schools back to what they used to be as a starting point to dealing with our societal ills. Those who finished from schools should have a job. They should have a job, because when those who finish from schools don't have job, those who are in the school lose motivation. If your elder sister or your elder brother has been a graduate for the past 13 years, 8 years, or 7 years, is still looking for money to buy toothbrush and toothpaste, and then if you are in school, you lose motivation, because you are seeing that your future is bleak. So my own take is that let us make enabling laws from houses of assembly, from National Assembly, to address this problem. But even at that, we need to revive our schools. Days were when we had good schools, mission schools, public schools. What we have today cannot just be described as a school. It can best be described as a business enterprise, business art. Even within the business, there are ethics of running a good business. So even the school, if the school is out there to make profit, there are ethics of profit making. You don't just make a profit where students come to school and die, where students come to school and join courts, you say you're making profit. That is not ethically and legally recognized as a profit. Even within law, there are illegal profits that can be made. So for me, in Abia State, in Nigeria as a whole, I strongly believe that if we get the school right, that the other arms of society will follow.
Okay,
Beyond making the law, Mr. Moderator,
Okay.
sorry for my rude interruption. Beyond making the laws, there is something that needs to be done.
And
Because
what is that?
it is only reported cases that can be tried. Reorientation is key. Let the National Orientation Agency, churches, NGOs go into reorientation by saying, look, bullying is not proper. Anybody caught bullying a fellow student will be expelled from school, would be tried, and there are other punishments that will be meted out to the person. Now, by the time you tell them, and tell the children also, if you are bullied, report. These are agencies, these are numbers you can call. Report immediately. Don't just rely on reporting to your school authorities, because they will cover it. No school will want to be exposed.
Yes.
So proprietors of schools, school administrators will want to, it's okay, sorry about that. We are sorry, we're going to deal with that student, and that ends, and the student continues. So let them know that this is where you are to report when such happens. And let every form of bullying or reported case of bullying be reported and be investigated. Therefore, orientation is key to solving the problem of bullying.
Okay, thank you very much. We are gradually coming to the end of today's edition of the Issues of the Moment. But before we call it a day, Dr. Warhan, are there lessons we can learn from what happened to Sylvester Oromoni?
Yes, very many lessons. The lessons are very clear. They are there for us to see. One is that it's time for us to start looking at our schools once more. It's time for us to take interest in what is happening in the schools. It's time for us to take interest in the welfare of the teachers, so that when you hand over your child to a teacher, you should be interested in the welfare of that teacher. So if government is running schools, they should look at the teachers and their welfare. They should look, that is what we call their working environment generally. The schools should allow the parents to come into the school and see the facilities the children are using. Like there's one school I took my child some 2-3 years ago, and I said I wanted to see their classroom and where they stay. The school said no, that I'm not allowed to see them. I said, I am paying for my child and I can't see the place where I took my child away. So parents should come closer to the schools where their children, see where these children stay. There are some that run kindergarten, crèche, but go to where these children are staying. You cry. Some of them are packed together in a very small room, 20-30 kids, all in the name of making profit. Then finally, government is at the head of the society. So supervision of schools by the Ministry of Education, by the education management boards that we have, should be stepped up, whether private or public schools. Supervision is very monitoring. They need to monitor the teachers for public and private schools. They need to provide what is needed for a functional education to take place.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dr. Mpago, on your own part, what are the lessons from this sad and unfortunate incident?
Too many lessons to be learned from the Sylvester case. One, parents should find time to hear out their children, find out what their problems are. Let us not be in a hurry to dismiss issues they raise. Two, let us also learn as a society to be proactive and not being reactive. We wait until disaster strikes before we begin to run around to see what will happen, when we have every opportunity to start the disaster from happening in the first instance. I therefore call on all parents, all teachers, society at large, the government, the ministry, as Dr. said, let us all come out and see what we can do to reposition the school system. Secondly, parents should not just transfer their parental functions to teachers. As a parent, you have your own role to play. When your children come back from school, sit down with them, find out how much they are doing. Don't just rely on, I paid their fees, I no longer owe, therefore I have discharged all my responsibilities. After all, it is because of them you are going out every day to make this money. Therefore, I urge all parents to please make out time, spend time with their children, find out their problems. If Sylvester's parents had taken time to find out Sylvester's problem, maybe we wouldn't have been discussing this issue today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we have come to the end of today's edition of our program. I want to thank you for being part of the show. Dr. Eugene Warhan, Dr. Stanley Mpago, I want to thank both of you for coming to the studio of Living Television Film Academy to talk to us on the case of the death of Sylvester Oromoni. Gentlemen, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
My name is Chimesia Ozems. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for being part of today's edition of our program. Join us another day for another interesting package. Goodbye. you.